Life is often so busy, taking us here, there, seemingly everywhere. When you aren't able to make it to church, we hope you are fed and nourished by listening to the preaching of God's Word wherever you are at the moment. In the meantime, take care, and God bless. So when you think about what to do for a preaching series, you think about a multitude of things. You think about what's going on in the world, you think about what we are having to deal with as a nation, as a state, a community, individually. And about 2 months ago, when the Director of Communications and Marketing said, Pastor Lillard, it would be really good if you figure out what the preaching series are going to be. I listened, but also the Director of Communications and Marketing at St. Andrew is also my wife. So I thought I should think quickly. And when I thought about what to think and do, I ended up thinking about two things. I don't always think in threes. Number one, I thought there's a lot going on in the world, but there's a lot of talk today. There are a number of different 24-hour news shows available for our viewing pleasure. And the air quotes I remember from the late Chris Farley, who I dearly miss, who one day said, I have a little bit of a weight problem, and he did the air quotes, and I've always delighted in the air quotes because whenever you use them, you're being tongue-in-cheek, but you're also being a little acidic. And so I'm both about news shows and for our viewing pleasure. You see, I didn't use the word edification. I used the word I used because it's not necessarily for our well-being, intellectual, social, or communal well-being. But sadly nowadays, when they break from all their opinions, there is breaking news, and they always have this bombastic visual. Breaking news, everything's breaking news. But unfortunately, lately there's been breaking news, tragedies, happening almost on a daily basis. It's depressing. It's almost too much sadness for us to face. In fact, there were 10 mass shootings in this country last weekend. 10 mass shootings last weekend. And that bloodshed comes as we continue to grieve and mourn a massacre at an elementary school in Texas, a deadly assault at a medical facility in Oklahoma, a racist rampage at a supermarket in New York, an attack on a Taiwanese church in California. In a similar vein to the phrase, say his name, I itemize all those tragedies because from my vantage point, we cannot forget. This is not acceptable. Aside from the crippling grief that parents and loved ones and communities have to deal with, we as a nation have to process all of this too. This is not somebody else's problem. This is on all of us. Furthermore, we also must worry and wonder if it will be our community next. Now, I tend not to say things that are obvious. It's like a child who perhaps approached you when you were mowing the lawn and your child says, "What are you doing?" And you try not to be sarcastic and say, I'm mowing the lawn, and it'd be nice if you helped me. In other words, one would have to have been living under a rock not to know everything that I said to you thus far, but knowing that terrible things happen and wishing that things were different are all good, right, and salutary. But the thing is also, in between now and where we hope to get, how do we make it? How do we have, hope? Just so we're on the same page here, the definitions of hope are, and here's the first one, a feeling of expectation or desire for certain things to happen. That's the first one. A feeling of trust, grounds for believing that something good may happen. Got it? Good. Which means hope comes into play when things are not as we would like. Hope comes into play when things are scary. Hope comes into play when pain and suffering are all that we can seem to digest. Actually, I was thinking that hope is not unlike the concept of forgiveness Here's what I mean. In theory, all in attendance here, but also those online, if you believe in forgiveness and its merits, raise your hand. Come on, people. This is the one interactive part we have. So you all theoretically believe in forgiveness. I mean, does it make sense if someone says, personally, I'm very proud of the fact that I hold good grudges. In fact, I rarely, if ever, let go. Now, people don't say it. Many people just live it out. See the irony? We all know the beautiful fragrance that forgiveness emits when it is produced. But whenever forgiveness is in play, you have betrayal and mistrust and anger and revenge. They're on the front burners. And we have really big front burners, you and I. That someone messes with us or someone we love, and we say, I'm going to let that sucker burn forever. What I'm saying is, hope is beautiful but hard. It must be found. Hope is something worth seeking. As one of my favorite quotes states, a boat is safe in the harbor, but that's not what boats are built for. This is a sanctuary. But when we're done, as we often say, behind closed doors, we don't care where you go, you just can't stay here. You have to sooner or later go out into the world and live your life, and so do I. We've been built to live out there. Come here to be strengthened for thy service be. It's a good life, a good world, a bad world, a tough life. It's painful, but it's also full of joy. And so, after what has to be the longest introduction to a sermon series in the history of history, I now have 3 points for you all. Point number 1, what we choose to look at. I have a phrase that I say that, for the most part, we hit what we aim at. In a similar vein, what do you choose to look at? You look at the positive things, or you look at the negative? It's your perspective. Do you wake up in the morning and say, well, this is going to be a jungle, this is going to be a rat race, and I'm sure people are going to be after me? Well, my guess is with that attitude and countenance, people will not disappoint you. And you're thinking, I'm going to take optimism school, I'm going to take half full glass from this curmudgeon? That's kind of odd. But for those who know me the most, they know me the best. I'm a pretty steady Eddie. I'm not up here, I'm not down here. My daddy taught me, one in leadership, but also in life, be steady, try to be reliable. Most days, when you find me at work, I'm going to be pretty much the same. Certain things make me happy, other things not so happy. But what do you choose to look at? I know that there are people who have this certain mindset that if they get a huge raise, they complain to their friends that now they're in a higher tax bracket. Seriously? How can we keep you happy? Hope is also something that we can do. This isn't Norman Vincent Peale. This isn't the power of positive thinking with a little bit of Robert Schuller to throw in Jesus. That's not what this is. At the same time, it's not a religion, but it is a psychology. It is a vista through which we live and learn, refractive, if you will, of how we see life. That if you and I wake up every day and say, it's not going to be very good, we're going to make it less than good. Humbling experience this week. You know, I have 2 of my pastor friends of 8, including me, who have cancer. The Reverend Dr. Carl Jacobson is lying in a hospital bed at the University of Minnesota on day 4 of day 5 to get ready for a bone marrow transplant. He's circa 52 years old, senior pastor of a church in Minneapolis. He and his wife have 5 kids. He called me and the other band of brothers in this case because he wanted to figure out who was going to do what in case he died. Because that's what preachers do. If you're a mechanic, you fix up your car before you go on a trip. If you're an accountant, you always keep those numbers straight. If you're athletically inclined or you like to work out, no day is complete until you work out. And when you're a preacher and somebody says, and this is what they said, Carl, this is the only cure there is. There's a 25% chance that it doesn't work and you die within 6 months. So I'm going to call my friends and ask them to do certain things in my funeral. Maudlin, morose, no, practical. But then he talked to me the rest of the conversation about the 75% chance that it will be a cure. And that is where my dear friend Carl, because he belongs to Jesus and he trusts in it, that's where he resides. Do you and I want to live in the 25% or the 75%? I think with my psychology degree, I think there is volition. There is some choice. And I got off the phone with my dear friend, and he buoyed my spirits because he, the most important agent in this, less Jesus, gave me hope. The one who might die gave me hope. Are you picking up what I'm laying down? Then yesterday, I go to a local pet store, not to make it too concentrated, and I dealt with a person at checkout whose name is Mike. And I say Mike because that's his name, which you know is just going to be flattering because I didn't change it to Bill. But poor Bill, when you change it to somebody else's name. So I'm there early in the morning, and our little dog Ruby hurt her leg. She's 9 pounds, and she can't use her leg, and she's had an x-ray and all those things, and so I dropped her off so she could get a splint. I wanted to put her on the prayer list, and Matthew was a great colleague and added her at the last minute because she's up there in importance for me. And so I'm buying some doggy treats because when you have a cast, you need some treats. And I didn't want to be there for a multitude of reasons. And then there was Mike. And I suppose Mike's probably around 70, 72, I don't know, older than me. And I'm thinking it's a beautiful day. Mike's working checkout. How you doing? And I give him a big bill because I had a big bill and I gave it to him and he said, they don't really trust us with cash. And I'm thinking, well, that's odd because you're at a cash register. And then he had to summon someone to get change. And so I asked him how he was doing, and Mike said, I'm super duper. And I leaned in and I said, super duper, that's just an interesting word. I mean, and I said right off the cuff, because I'm weird, is I said, duper is only with super duper. I wonder what duper means. I mean, I know it's with super. And then I started to talk about the etymology of the word duper. And then I actually went into a tailspin and I said there was a dinosaur that was purple, that was Barney, that added super D-duper. And he was thinking to himself, I hope the woman who's going to get cash hurries up. But I was having fun. But so was Mike. Because Mike was leaning in. The person behind never wanted to be behind me again, but it wasn't my fault for waiting. The conversation was my fault. And then Mike said, sir, yes. Every day I wake up, I resolve to be super duper. And Mike means it because Mike lives it. He's at a pet store at 9 a.m. on a beautiful day, being super duper. Don't think, I said to myself, that his life is without conflict. If he's as old as I think he is, he's had a lot of valleys, he's a lot of mountains to climb, and who knows the sorrow that he's had to overcome. But for my friend Carl, who's going to navigate that, and my new friend Mike, who's super duper, I can learn something. Speaking of learning, I love this book. All I really need to know I learned in kindergarten. I believe that imagination is stronger than knowledge, that myth is more potent than history, that dreams are more powerful than fact, that hope always triumphs over experience, that laughter is the only cure for grief, and I believe that love is stronger than death. I think what the wise person was writing about everything I need to know I learned in kindergarten is that what are you and I going to look at? Upon what are we going to focus? Point number 2, most people are good. If you're a country wonk, I'm a part-time one. Luke Bryan has a song, and I wanted to have Tim Graff sing it, but I think there's a little fine print in his contract that says, I, Tim Graff, refuse to play any country tune in worship. Sincerely meant. And there's only one little part of it that actually reads, most people are good. But I'm just going to say this because I believe it, is that I do think most people are good. There's goodness in there. We're saint and sinner simultaneously. I get all that. We come here and say that we messed up. We all mess up. But there are more good people than evil people. But there are people who are doing evil things, and what I'm going to say is that many times we feel like we can't do anything, and then we're aghast at the people who do that, and then we don't do anything that we're supposed to do. The people filled with hate are yelling. There's something you should know psychologically about the people who are usually yelling something. They're conflicted themselves. And then we wonder whether or not we should be kind. Yes, be kind. When someone yells, it's not good to say, well, I'm going to yell at you. When there's only one person being small in a room, make sure when you leave, there's still one person being small. It's so hard. But I do believe that most people are good. If you think, and I think that 75% of the people in the world are not good, where's the hope in that? I'm always amazed now that I'm an old guy, how many decades I've heard every generation say, I'm so worried about the kids of today. They don't have this figured out, they don't have that figured out, and when they get to be leaders, we are in trouble. I've heard that when I was 10 and 20 and 30 and 40 and now 50 and almost 60. Oh, these kids today. Us old people say stuff like that. You know what I know from our kids and their friends? They're more inclusive than we are. They see less color. They see less lifestyle. They see more potential in other people. And we're worried that when they get up, they might actually lead something. Well, actually, I did a little Googling. Half the members of the U.S. Senate are 65 years of age or older. 21 senators are between 70 and 80 years of age. A senator from Iowa and a senator from California are both 87 years old. Until 2007, when you were 60 years of age, if you flew a plane for Delta or Northwest or whomever, at the age of 60, you had to retire. Congress changed it in 2007 to be 65. Why? Because everyone in Congress was so old, they said, well, we got to make ourselves look better. But here's what I'll contend, and I said it first service, it's hard to get rid of a pastor. I'll just say if you can't fly an airplane at 65, you're 87 years old. And here's what I'm going to say, is I'm not looking at them and saying that they can't figure out anything, but I'm not going to stand in a room and have people mock young people and say they can't figure it out, because I think we could get 12 smart kids at Central Middle School down the road and give them topics of the day and have them in a parallel kind of forum, have them struggle, and our political leaders, and you know what? I'm betting on the young people. I'm betting on the young people. But here's how I'm going to confound you a little bit, because we have to nuance think. I'm not saying that old people can't lead, but I'm saying that we can't say young people can't. And here's how I'm going to make it twisted, but life is complicated. If a Democrat looks and says, everyone who thinks on the other side of the aisle from me is fill in the blank, we're in trouble. And I'll say it to the other people as well. If we think that half of the population who don't think like we do are hopeless and wrong, I worry about our future. I'm worried about extremists in every regard. But in this case, we can't simply say, because you're this, then you are that. Here's what I want to purport. You may say that I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us and the world will live as one. And then somebody shot him. Oh yeah, it was the 60s, peace and love. I think when we can look at other people who don't see eye to eye with us, but we can have a common vision of being united, of being tolerant, of living together in a complex world, that's where I see hope. Point number 3, hope is always found in and through Jesus. A quick aside, I was going down the hallway and a mother looked at me and said, Pastor Lilliard, we attended the first service. I said, well, good. And she said, our little son who's in 5th grade, he got to the 3rd point and he looked at his brother and said, good, it's almost done. I share with you, good, this is almost done. Hope is always found in and through Jesus. I say this at the end because I'm hoping that what you hear at the end, you're going to remember first. I think it's good to have a positive attitude. I'm really positive about that. I also know that we have to be more tolerant of people, especially those with whom we don't agree. But the most important thing is hope is always found in and through Jesus. I did some more Googling. Jesus said, come to me, all of you who are weary and carry heavy burdens. Anybody here? Anybody here? Does this relate to anybody? Come to me. I am the way, the truth, and the life. I'm the light of the world. I am the Messiah. It's kind of like Jesus knew that life was going to be hard and maybe they're going to need some help. And by the way, can I just offer myself, says Jesus? You ever have friends of yours in your network who come up and say, I'll help you, and you're thinking, well, I didn't ask you, but thanks for offering. I usually ask the ones that will be helpful. This is someone who can be helpful. I'm the resurrection and the life. I am with you always, even to the end of the age. Here's what I purport. Is that as people of faith, whether your name is Carl or whatever, we run, we walk, we crawl, we turn to Jesus, and we cry out for help and hope. You ever heard that phrase, give it to God? But people will use it kind of flippantly. Well, I don't know, I've tried everything, I'll just give it to God. How about the first thing you do is give it to God? Can you help me this? I'm looking at the world and all I'm seeing is bad. But go see Mike. Get a dog or a cat. Go, I'll give you directions. He will help you. And there are people all over who are not nice or courteous at Costco, but my guess is 80 or 90% of them are decent people. Upon what do you want to focus? We must accept finite disappointments, but never lose infinite hope. God's mercy and grace give me hope for myself and for our world. One day somebody Asked Martin Luther what he would do if he heard that the world would end tomorrow, and he said, "I would plant an apple tree." This is our Father's world. This is God's world, and we're living in it. And I often say that if God had a reel-to-reel or God had a DVD, Sodom and Gomorrah, you look at all the way through, God will say, "You have found different ways to hurt and assail one another, but I just don't want you to hurt and assail anyone." I believe in our young people. I believe in the old people. And I believe in those who are middle-aged. But most of all, I believe in Jesus. I want you to have a super duper week. And if you really, really, really want to be great, then be super de-duper, like Barney the dinosaur. But look for the good. And then augment the good by being kind and loving. And if you and I do more and more of that, we become hope. So help us God. Amen.
We hope you found this week's message helpful as you think about how you will live out your faith each day. If you would like to support the ministries at St. Andrew Lutheran Church, you can do so by having your credit card information available and then texting a gift to 952-260-9007. Thank you, and God bless.